So, for those who aren't aware, this guy does a lot of video game coverage. He's actually the guy I go to most of the time for all my video game news and everything else like that. Because this guy has the most based opinions ever. And he does really in-depth thoughts about like the gaming industry and everything else like that. I really enjoy his takes on it all. I really enjoyed the third game. I barely enjoyed the third game just because this. By the way, this is about Borderlands. I enjoyed the third game for its gameplay. I did not like it for its story. The story was awful, but I loved the gameplay. That's honestly a very fair point, considering the fact of there has been so many video game controversies in the last like. Fuck. I'm a dumbass. I thought this was already fucking. My. Why? Okay. It should work
That's
now.
it. I'm gonna get one of those signs that sits behind me that says 0 days since last industry controversy.
And for that, it's a fair point. Let's be honest, there has been industry controversy after industry controversy when it comes to gaming. It's honestly like every other week. It really is.
I have never seen so many companies so ready, so willing, such in a rush to try to give players more reasons not to buy their games. I sit back and I read some of this stuff and I'm just like, why can't you guys be normal?
What the fuck?
Just for like a week. Now we have CEO Randy Pitchford coming forward to say that real fans will be able to find a way to buy their games for $80.
I fucking hate that. I'm not muted. I'm not muted. Oh, fuck you, Pie. Fuck you, bro. Come on. You son of a bitch. Fuck you. They're lying. I know they're lying. But I'm gonna be honest. When it comes to this whole thing of people will find, true fans will find a way to buy it, that, in my opinion, is one of the worst things you can say, because it makes me not even want to buy it to begin with and not even be excited about it. I think what I've been saying for like the last several months about games being just too price high for anyone to really afford it, and this is an entertainment thing. You don't really need to get the freaking game. It's an entertainment thing. If it's not affordable, why is anyone gonna want to buy it? Is the problem. But yeah, that's my whole fucking thing with this. This is like the worst take any CEO or any corporation or company can make, is like, if true fans can buy it, because you're basically gatekeeping people who just want to enjoy the game out of the game, and basically saying only the rich can buy it.
Brushing off player concerns about price increases and then also turning it into a fandom purity test. That is a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how that pays off for you. Too many times these publishers and studios are betting on blind consumerism. And time again, they are proven wrong. They do not realize.
I have a caveat to add here. They are proven wrong as of recently. Let's be honest. Up until Baldur's Gate, everyone was just like, the name will sell the thing, and it was working. I really want to see them ask $80 just to see how awful it sells. No, the new Borderlands is $80. That's why everyone's complaining about it. Borderlands is $80 off the rip. And they're saying if you can't afford it, only true fans will find a way to buy it, is what the CEO said. He's just talking about the mentality of that. And I'm going to be honest, I agree with him to an extent, but I have to disagree when it comes to this whole thing of people not buying it because of like the name or anything else like that. Only started after Baldur's Gate. After Baldur's Gate came out, I'm going to be honest, I really think Baldur's Gate, in my opinion, was such a changer in the gaming industry because it showed quality and how much money it actually took to really make a game. I think it destroyed everyone's mentality, or at least the everyone's mentality of just because it's a good game, just because it has the name on it, doesn't mean we should expect less. And I feel like that's actually changed a lot of people's minds. So I'd say pre-Baldur's Gate, he's wrong about this. After it, he's it's right about this.
How far their actions and their words travel. Every cash out and every crash out, it's costing them, and it's costing them dearly. So today what I want to do is I want to give a lesson on brand economics. As a fan, Randy, we're going to talk about how your brand influences your financial performance and ultimately your future. Because Borderlands 4 is not the kind of game that I would just assume everybody's going to buy, regardless of how much money they have or how big of a fan they are. Or better yet,
Hear me out. It's not the game's fault. It's the fault of the cost of living going up. Game prices never moved for the longest time, despite inflation. Inflation is catching up. Cost of living skyrocketing past the rest of inflation rates. So the gaming industry is in an awkward post. They can either increase their prices and deal with the nightmare or risk going into the negative. Okay. I would agree with you, but I can't, unfortunately. So that's a good way of thinking about it. And honestly, on paper, it makes sense. Until you take into account that game discs and like the physical distribution of games is going down as digital becomes the main source of marketing, to the point where now even Nintendo is basically cutting out the like the physical part other than these little keys you get to buy half the time, which basically reduces that. And gaming ever since 2014 has increased exponentially. It's now bigger than movies. So while I would agree that as time goes on, the inflation should catch up to them, the problem is they have grown their market to such an extent to outpace the movies that they were trying to imitate, to the point where they have grown exponentially. Just look at the PC market. After 2020, the PC market has exploded. It is honestly starting to become very integral to put your games on PC to even make sure it makes money. And people have been using Steam as a platform as to literally judge whether games can actually succeed or fail because of that. Gears of War on PS5, anyone? Like, legit, honestly. And with the death of exclusives and everything else like that, I'm gonna be honest, like, game companies can make all the money they want. The inflation shouldn't have hit them as bad as it is. They're just using it as an excuse to change the price on you. And plus, if inflation was a thing, I would get raising the game prices. Well, why'd you have to raise the price on literally every other accessory like Nintendo did? Like, Nintendo raised the price on the controllers, the headsets, everything Nintendo-wise, everything Xbox-wise, all raised. They raised it all. So, I would say inflation hit them, but I'm gonna be honest, it shouldn't have hit them as much as it did. That's my point side. The game industry has been at the $60 mark since its early 2000s, and they've had favorable budget cuts, but it can only last for so long, and I truly understand that. My only problem is this: with bigger increases in income, you should expect better games, and they're not giving it to you. And it's not like you can't make money using $60 games. Baldur's Gate was a perfect example. Hell, Oblivion's one of the best-selling games Bethesda had. The remaster. It's literally one of the best-selling games they have in years. I'm gonna be honest, I think it's about to outsell Starfield. And you know what the best part is? It's only $50. You don't need to charge 70. You don't need to charge 80. They want to do that because they want to make money. The inflation never hit them that hard. It really didn't. They could have kept it at 60 and it would still have been good. But they didn't. They just wanted to charge more. That's honestly what it is.
that used to be.
No offense.
Fuck you! I need to fucking get rid of ads. Fuck me. No, I didn't. Fuck.
You're paying more than $30 a
I
month
fucking
on car
hate this.
insurance.
I needed to get rid of this.
Everybody knows you can buy car.
Fuck every single thing. I fucking hate ads so much. I really wish I could get out of it. Brave browser that permit blocks YouTube. I really need. The thing is this: I have a browser that can turn off the ads, but it makes everything so slow. It's not even like, you know what? I'll turn on the ad blocker just to make sure. And I thought I had it on. That's the worst part. Let me fucking turn it on. Block ads. Most
That's
professional.
it. I'm gonna get one of those.
Most professional streamer ever, right
signs that
here.
sits behind- Again, it's not the kind of game that I would just assume everybody's going to buy, regardless of how much money they have or how big of a fan they are. Or better yet, used to be.
To be
With both
honest,
Nintendo
because a lot of the coding for Oblivion was already done. It's not about that. It's the point of you can make the money with that. Hey, Dragon, we're reacting to a video right now.
and Xbox increasing their prices up to $80, it's expected that other publishers will fall in line soon. And most players are already wondering which games are going to be the next ones to make the jump. A few developers and executives have already weighed in on the topic, and in a surprising twist, EA CEO Andrew Wilson had already stated that they have no plans to raise their prices at this time, regardless of what the competition does.
You know what the worst part is? I have to give it to EA now. That's fucking awesome. That's honestly awesome. And I'm going to be honest, though, I see your argument and everything else like that, but the problem is this. Even games like Clair Obscura doesn't sell for like $80, and they're still making bank. Like, you don't need to sell for $80. They just want to. It's literally just that simple. Makes use a lot of the base code. They do. I'm not saying they don't. But fine, take Clair Obscura. It was developed for less time with less developers and was able to make a decent amount of money without that. So it really is that. And the rarest EA dub moment I've ever seen honestly shocks the shit out of me. I mean, honestly. EA getting a dub is so rare. I've never seen it before. And they actually closed the studio today, by the way. You know, the guys who were working the Black Panther game, they shut them down, actually. So, them saying they're not going to raise prices while at the same time shutting down, it's like a WL situation. It's like, does the L cancel the W? I don't know.
That statement alone tells you how volatile this topic has become. Players are becoming more price sensitive by the day, not just because of inflation, but because the price of games already went up less than 5 years ago from 60 to 70 and now to $80. 2 points on a graph is a coincidence, but 3 is a trend. At this rate, people aren't worried about this price hike. They're more worried about the next one. That's why when a fan replied to Randy Pitchford on Twitter with a friend,
the next price hike will be GTA 6. I'm calling it right now. GTA 6 will be $100 at base price. I think they delayed it because I think they honestly want to put it on PC as well because they're going to miss it on a used market if they don't. But 100% GTA is going to be base price $100. The Ultimate Edition is going to be $120, and then every other game is going to try and mimic that, and that will be the death of the industry. Not the death, more of like, it'll be the death of AAA companies who don't make any good games. Like, if you make a game that isn't on the level of GTA 6 after that releases and it's $100 and you price it at $100, expect no one to buy it. People are becoming price sensitive, and with, like he said, as it keeps adding and adding and adding, like was it 3 years ago they increased the price? Now that you're doing it again, it's just too much of a trend. Which means you don't need to make as much money to break even. The more employees you have, the more money you need to make to break even with the project. Then split the projects into smaller teams. At that point, it's just bad management. You don't need to charge the consumer more just because you can't manage a damn team.
friendly warning, it resonated. He said, Randy, this game better not be $80. Don't take that risk. A lot of gamers aren't going to pay $80 and feed this notion of constant price increases. You're the CEO. You have some say when it comes to your publisher. It wasn't hostile. It wasn't aggressive. Just a reasonable concern from someone looking forward to Borderlands 4 and worried about the fact that it might cost too much. And in response, Randy Pitchford delivered what might be the single worst way to answer a paying customer. A, it's not my fault. And B, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. My local game store had Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 in 1991 when I was just out of high school, working minimum wage in an ice cream parlor in Pismo Beach, and I found a way to make it happen.
This is the worst thing you could ever say to a gamer. Well, more like this is the worst thing you could say to anyone right now. Like, people are getting price sensitive for a reason, and just saying this is like the worst PR you could ever think of. And this isn't even about gaming prices. This is just like the worst PR nightmare ever. And I'm going to be honest, when it comes to a lot of these people, they should just really stop talking about. I've got to be honest. There's a lot of people that just don't need to be on Twitter. I think with this comment, he is one of them. Because this is like the worst PR nightmare you can ever ask for. Because all this comment does is insult the fans who can't afford it, and basically says if you're not a fan, you're not a fan if you can't buy it. It's one of those things, in my opinion, that this is gonna do so much harm to the actual game itself. And by the time it releases, I think there'll be so much damage, even though the game looks good.
Right, because nothing says love for a franchise like quietly accepting predatory pricing and bending over at the cash register. Imagine thinking that fandom is only defined by how much financial discomfort you're willing to endure. This isn't just tone deaf, this is loyalty tax disguised as nostalgia. So let's break this down. A multimillionaire CEO in 2025 during an era of a housing crisis, inflation, and mass layoffs is telling players that if they really cared, they would just behave like he did in 1991 when a game still had a physical resale value, didn't have season passes, deluxe editions, microtransactions, or...
Yeah, the sad thing is I don't even like Borderlands, nor do I think they hired enough people to justify the price. I'm mainly just talking about gaming industry as a whole. Inflation's a bitch, and it's only a matter of time before games have no choice. The thing is this, the game companies do have a choice. They've already had a choice. The problem they are running into is wanting to increase their pockets, and the problem is this. Inflation hit them. I'm not saying it didn't, but it hit them already. That's why they raised it to $70. That was the same excuse they raised it to $70. Now they're raising it to $80? And then they're planning on wanting to GTA to be priced on $100 so they can raise it to $100? I'm sorry, but people just will not buy that anymore. And I'm gonna be honest, if they keep doing this, every game will have to be a 10 out of 10. Otherwise, people just will not buy it. And that'll be the gaming industry's coffin to lay in, because they'll have done it. I say if they do that, by the year 2028, most of the publishers you know of will have been dead and gone, and games will probably not be lower in price, but they definitely will be higher quality over the board with smaller teams and smaller devs, and you will see thousands of people laid off because of it.
Day one DLC. This isn't PR, this is financial cosplay. He's not relating to players, he is romanticizing economic struggle just to justify an $80 video game. That game that he bought in 1991, it didn't come with a deluxe edition, 4 expansion passes, and a 6-month roadmap. You bought it, you played it, you were done with it.
Also,
so that's not
he does have to point to mention the resale value, because let's be honest, back in the day, even if you did buy a game for $80, you could resell that game. If I buy a game on Steam, I cannot sell that to my friend. I won't make any money off of it. If I have it, it's in my inventory and I can't just straight up give it to him. So you lose a little bit of value on that too. Is this gonna hurt the game? All this is gonna do is hurt the gamers who want to play bangers for cheap. But I'm gonna be honest, you know what this is gonna do? This is gonna justify Game Pass. Honestly, it will. Subscription services will literally become the new way to play your games. Personally, I think Steam will do fine just because of the way they have their business practice and everything else like that. But all this does is just justify Game Pass as a service and literally PSN, like PS Now too. Like, down the line, if they keep doing the things they're doing, it'll just be cheaper to do that than anything else.
Not so different from what Borderlands 4 is going to be today. And that's exactly why this pricing conversation deserves a little bit more care. So no, Randy, your story about saving up while working at an ice cream parlor doesn't justify $80 digital video games. It makes...
The problem is this. They do that. The only way they could justify the price increase is if a full game, no DLC, no microtransactions, just everything the game will have up front. That's really all they can do. The problem is they will not do that. They'll probably put in some microtransactions and then they will add DLCs. That's the problem. Trends too high. So yeah, no, that's the problem. So I'm not going to justify them. So the thing is this. My problem with that is this. And this doesn't even mention the live service games. Exactly. Problem is Borderlands 4 is also a live service game. And the reason I know this is because I played the last two and they all had DLCs, transactions, credits, all this stuff. But the thing is this. Borderlands 4 is going to probably be a live service game with DLC coming down the line because it's a looter shooter. So you're probably going to have that. But I'm going to be honest. Your whole thing of if they didn't charge this, that, and the other for it is faulty because they are doing that. So in my opinion, it doesn't justify the price. If most games have microtransactions and DLCs half the time, and they do it constantly to make more money, I don't feel like they should raise the price to $80. Like if there was just a general game that had like all the DLC, I would agree with you. But the problem is most companies don't do that. So I don't want them to basically set a standard for everyone to follow when they're just not going to do the standard. You know, because if they set the standard at $80, every live service game will just be $80 going from here on out. Whether it's single player, multiplayer, anything else like that. And if they did what you were saying, Pi, I would agree. The problem is they're not.
Makes you sound like the kind of guy who thinks eating ramen to afford loot boxes builds character. Pitchford is right about something, though. Fans will find a way, just not the way that he's going to want them to. They'll wait for a sale, or they will skip it entirely. Some of them are just going to pirate it out of spite, and they're going to do that guilt-free because, unlike Randy, they're not going to be assigning moral weight to a price tag. The best part of this is that other studios picked up on this sentiment. Devolver Digital fired off a surgical strike on Twitter saying that you're going to be able to buy Mycopunk for you and 3 of your friends for the price of 1 copy of Borderlands 4.
I swear these indie devs are coming out and literally killing the AAA devs. I swear. That's like the best way to get anyone in your game. Have a game that you can buy you and 4 of your friends. If it's a good game, honestly, and it's a fun game, the word will spread and people might actually do that.
Mycopunk, by the way, is this slick-looking FPS PvE horde
that
shooter
really
that
kinda
has a demo
interesting.
that's out right now. That game, by the way, you can probably play that with friends for like 100 hours completely free. Pitchford, not wanting to take the L, retweeted Devolver Digital's post with this bizarre response. Mycopunk is cheaper than 1 point of meth, probably has fewer side effects too. What does that even mean?
Oh god, that's a rage bait if I ever saw one.
And now this whole thing is just going to be remembered as 2025's "don't you guys have phones" moment, or maybe EA's "it's not gambling, it's surprise mechanics." Another one of those tone-deaf executives that are trying to make a point only to remind players, well, they stopped trusting these people in the first place. Funny enough, before this happened, Pitchford actually addressed the pricing concerns at a recent Borderlands event. He had said that he didn't know if Borderlands 4 was going to follow Nintendo or Xbox's pricing, reiterated that it wasn't his call, and then added on that this game's budget is more than double that of Borderlands 3. But he finished by saying
I fucking hate the budgets.
he believes in this game, that it's great, and that it will deliver at any price point. And honestly, it might, but that's not the issue anymore. The sad part is, this didn't have to be a controversy. If Pitchford just said what he had said at the event, or better yet, said nothing at all, the conversation would have moved on. Maybe people would have grumbled about the potential price hike. Maybe they would wait for a sale, but that would have been the end of it. Instead, he gave players another reason not to buy his game, one that has nothing to do with the price tag and everything to do with the person behind it. And that's the real problem. It's not just about the $80 price tag. It's about the arrogance, the entitlement, and the complete lack of understanding about.
Can I say this? A lot of devs of AAA games have really been doing this a lot lately, and it's honestly hurting their games more than I think anyone realizes. Because when a CEO does this, it basically makes it to where, why would I want to buy from you if you are literally just out there to cheat me out of my money, you know, basically? It gives that kind of mentality. Even if it's just like 3 out of 5 people think that way after seeing that tweet, you have just lost 3 out of 5 fucking customers and have lost a lot of money because of that. Like, goodwill and hype build up a game so much, and a lot of devs recently have just shot the hype in the foot by just being dicks on Twitter.
About how players actually think. Pitchford turned what could have been a calm, consumer-level concern into a loyalty test. He didn't just defend the price, he turned it into a challenge, a line in the sand, and this behavior isn't rare anymore. It's become a pattern across the entire industry. We've seen this time and time again, developers and executives who either don't understand the weight that their words can carry, or worse, they think that they're untouchable because of their titles. They treat their personal social media accounts like it's a diary, forgetting that everything they say reflects back on the studio, their coworkers, and the game that they are trying to sell.
Which, okay, I'm torn on this one, actually. Because in my opinion, it is their personal Twitter. They should have the right to say whatever they want. But when you're the directors and CEOs of companies, or even just like anyone in management of it, hell, even if you're an artist, it still reflects on the company. So the question I have for you, just because I don't think I even have the answer to this one, is should they, say they say something on Twitter and it does affect the game negatively just because of the bad, marketing, basically? Should they be looked at as being replaced, or should they just be looked at as getting punished in some way? Because I'm gonna be honest, that's my whole problem. Like, because it's like a freedom of speech thing, because it is their personal thing. They have the right to say it, but then it does affect badly on the games they make. So it's like that's a kind of a tough one for me.
And when those comments backfire, the damage doesn't just hit them alone, it hits everybody around them. Just look at Helldivers 2, that game had an explosive launch, even with matchmaking issues, bugs, and crashes. Players still stuck around because the developers felt like they were connected, passionate, and engaged. But once the first balance patch hit, well, the Reddit posts started rolling in, and then one of their developers openly admitted to antagonizing the fans for their own entertainment. Discord mods started banning people using clown emojis on furry art. Then came the now famous "I thought you were refunding the game and leaving" post from one of their community managers during the Sony account linking disaster. It does not matter how good the game was, the trust was gone. It took nearly a year of them replacing staff, rebuilding goodwill, and delivering real updates for them to be able to recover that audience that they once had by default. Or go look at Starfield. That game's reception was already shaky, but whatever sympathy Bethesda had left had evaporated by the time that their narrative lead, Emil Pagliarulo, logged on to scold players on Twitter saying that they don't understand how hard it is to make games. Instead of just listening to players about what they actually wanted, freedom, personality, a reason to care, he guilt-tripped them as if emotional manipulation could patch out a lack of meaningful content. Guess what? It didn't work. Avowed, Concord, Starfield, Helldivers 2, the list goes on. Different games, different studios, same exact problem.
Yeah, Concord, Helldivers 2, Starfield, like, there's a bit of arrogance, I think, in the gaming industry, like the developers have. And I honestly, I kind of get it, because, like, let's be honest, you're a game developer. You know, you built the thing. You clearly know the ins and outs and the workings of it. But the problem is this: you're not the judge. I think that's my problem. Is you may be the one to build it. You may be the one to make it look nice and look pretty. You may have made the sound that everyone really enjoyed for this gun. But at the end of the day, you are subservient to the customer that is buying the game. If the customer says, "I don't like the way this gun sounds," and everyone agrees with them, then the gun sounds bad. The Arfaria being a thing is extremely undersold there. I was in the server when that was going on. People would have posted something generally wholesome or cool just because it was furry related, or even the furry absence. There's where people sending the artist death threats. Oh wow, fun. That was oosh. Damn. Oh, furry art? Damn. I'm not a fan of the furries, but holy crap, man. That's a lot. But my whole point is, when it comes to like that, like that's my point. Like, the game, just because you're a game developer doesn't mean you have the right opinion about the game. Like, I have a big problem with the Bethesda story writers. I think they write shitty stories. That's my thought. And I think enough people agreed with me because Starfield didn't do too well. So don't invite me in the server. Yeah, definitely.
Developers treating players like obstacles, personal politics, and petty grudges overriding professionalism, and every single time the exact same result: disappointment, backlash, silence, and loss of players. That's what makes this all so frustrating. It's not about just one quote or one tweet or one tone-deaf reply. It's about a pattern. These companies are already asking players to pay more than ever. And when the people that are representing those companies act dismissive, snide, or outright combative, it just gives players a very easy reason to just walk away. The average player doesn't care about who's managing the Discord or balancing the damage numbers, but they do care, and they do notice when somebody from that team acts like the audience is beneath them. When you push players away, don't be surprised when they don't come back. Games are already expensive. Don't make players pay for your ego too.
And I'm going to be honest, I think the reason they're also raising prices is because they are generally not doing well. Look at most games nowadays. Half the AAA games flop. And I mean legit half. The reason you can't remember half of them is because you never played them. Like, what is it? So Concord, I think, is probably the example everyone thinks about, just because of how bad that game flopped. But let's be honest, I've seen Sony shut down companies. I have seen fucking, like, EA just shut down a company today. Like, they're shutting down these companies in record rates because they're not producing anything good. Fighting toxicity with toxicity just leads to the wholesome people either side being caught in the crossfire. That I agree with, but I'm not with being toxic. Like, how about I agree, but if like say a CEO is toxic online and basically insulting fans, them not buying the game isn't being toxic. It's justified. I don't see them not buying a product after a creator insults you as being not as toxic. If anything, that's just voting with your wallet. That's literally it. And though it will suck when the devs get fired, and I fully agree, it'll suck.
No! God, please!
Oh,
no!
come on!
No! No!
No! It'll definitely suck with the fucking ow. It'll definitely suck when they do get fired, unfortunately. But if fucking Ubisoft, if former Ubisoft devs just made such a hit that it's honestly up for Game of the Year. These devs are talented. Well, let's be honest, the AAA industry is just holding them back half the time. They put them in massive teams with everyone contradicting one another. If you have a 15,000 man team, or hell, if you have 1,500 people on a team, that's way too much. 20 people with a SoundCloud artist made a game so fantastic, it's literally topping the charts. I'm sorry, but you just need to split the teams up into smaller teams. I feel like that's half of AAA's problem. Bigger stream, bigger, their whole thing is bigger team, bigger game, bigger money. And I'm like, you're thinking it as a child would. I'd say a good amount of developers for a game is around 30 to 100 at max. You don't go above that, in my opinion. And then you split those teams up into different teams and give them smaller budgets. That way they know they only have to work with something, they have to make something fun, and 100 people are a lot more effective than 1,000 people.
I genuinely think that these companies underestimate how many people use social media, which makes a lot of sense seeing how much they spend on their marketing budgets, but it doesn't take a whole lot to come across a stray quote or a headline. You don't have to be watching videos like this. If you are remotely interested in Borderlands, there's a good chance that you're going to be scrolling Twitter or Reddit or YouTube or whatever it might be, and you're going to see something, and all of a sudden somebody that had passing interest in something is going to pass entirely.
Honestly.
It's as easy as that. Once negative sentiment starts, it is impossible to put out.
I will disagree with that. Definitely disagree. It is possible to put out negative things. It first starts with an actual apology, and then starts with what you're going to do to make everyone, to entice people. Say, hey, you know what? We're going to lower the game price to $70. And then say, we're going to have an open beta this day for everyone to try out and play our new game. We're going to have some really cool and interesting things. Give out some creator codes for free so people can stream and everything else like that. You can totally kill negative sentiment, but it requires an apology, a rethinking of what you're doing, and a general self-reflection, which AAA gaming companies and really massive companies are really, really not good at.
It spreads fast. Hardcore fans, people making YouTube videos for Borderlands content, people that stream it and things like that, they might be able to brush it off, but the wider audience, no. The people that have been burned before, the people that are sitting on the fence, the people are wondering whether or not they're even going to be able to afford it, when something like this hits their feed, it just reinforces all of their most negative and worst assumptions possible. These developers are out of touch. The pricing is unjustified. And now here I am sitting here and seeing the CEO say that if I want to play their game, I need to dig deep to be able to be taken seriously. What really kills me is the complete lack of just living on earth when it comes to some of these executives. They cannot see anything past their own ego. You're sitting here telling me during a housing crisis, all this inflation, all these prices going up, you're trying to tell the common customer that we increased our prices, we increased our staff by 150 members, we increased our budget by more than twice the amount, and we're going to need you guys to be able to make that up for us. You overspent, you overstaffed. This is your problem, but you want us to make that math work. No. Personally, I don't understand where all this optimism is coming from. Pitchford is acting like Borderlands is untouchable, but the way things have gone lately, you can only be certain that your real fans will be able to show up if you even have them. I am, for all intents and purposes, a diehard Borderlands fan. I want Borderlands 4 to be amazing because if it's good,
I was a diehard Borderlands fan after 2. 3 kind of killed it for me. I'm hoping 4 doesn't, but the way it's going, I don't even want to pick it up is the problem.
I'll probably pour hundreds, maybe
No,
even
God,
thousands
God
of
damn
hours
it.
into it.
No!
Why?
No!
What have I done to you?
No!
Ah! So mean! Wow, legit actual mean. How dare. How dare you?
As somebody who grew up on Diablo and loves first-person shooters, this series has always felt like it was
No,
tailor-made for
God,
me. I
please,
love build
no!
crafting.
No! No!
Oh, no.
God, please, no!
I should have put a fucking delay on
No!
this!
No!
Mistakes have been made! Borderlands 4 can be amazing, but I'll just flop because the price tag. That's the problem I have. These games could be fantastic, but the price tag alone is going to drive people away. Arrowhead's done that too by saying their next gym game will not have Sony as their publisher. That's the thing. I'm curious what they're going to do. And I'm curious what Arrowhead's going to do. I love Arrowhead as the developers, and I'm curious what they're going to be doing. I wonder why indie games sell so well. Maybe because they're good and cheap and something AAA. And also, they're getting more technologically advanced just because technology is easier than it was originally. Like, it used to be almost impossible to make anything close to AAA without having like a huge studio. Now it's a lot easier. So you're seeing these indie companies coming out with games that are rivaling AAA games. I saw Moxie being thrown in one of those PNGs. Yes, you did. But you was dead silent.
The endless loot, the tight gunplay, the class variety, and it's one of the best co-op experiences in all of gaming. When Borderlands is at its best, it plays like a co-op MMO with bite-sized storytelling, and it has some of the most creative combat loops that are out there. Sirens with their space magic, pet and turret classes, other characters serving as weapons platforms, guns that shoot guns, launch bees and scream at you, legendary drops that completely change your playstyle, true Vault Hunter mode, raid bosses, DLC that actually matters. And it's one of the last remaining franchises that hasn't thrown itself headfirst into live service hell. No battle passes, no seasonal resets,
Fair,
no
they didn't do
login
that.
bonuses or overpriced skin bundles, just a complete experience packed with content straight out of the gate with expansions that actually expand on something. In a lot of ways, Borderlands is a reminder of what games used to be before monetization warped the entire genre. But that's the thing. What Borderlands represents and what Borderlands has become are two completely different things. And what I don't think Gearbox has acknowledged or maybe hasn't realized is that Borderlands has a reputation for the few, not the many. On paper, this franchise is still
I never played
giant.
Warrior
93
Land.
million copies sold, a long list of mainline titles and spin-offs, massive brand recognition, but you zoom in and it starts to tell a different story. Borderlands 2 alone counts for 30 million of those sales.
Shit.
And just because a franchise has legacy doesn't mean that that audience is going to show up again. Look at Dragon Age
Look at Halo. That's all I'm going to say. Halo.
the Veilguard. That's a franchise that had critical acclaim, massive fan investment, strong sales, but over the years, BioWare chipped away at the formula, changing the gameplay, shifting the tone, making thematic changes that didn't really sit all that well with players. By the time Veilguard rolled out, that reputation had already worn thin. The trailers didn't land, the tone felt off, and when it released, the audience didn't show up for it. It missed its sales targets, it didn't make its money back, and it didn't matter how loved Origins was, it only mattered how good Veilguard looked right now. Borderlands is not immune to that. Legacy can only get you so far when each new entry leaves a worse impression than the last. The pre-sequel was the first sign of this. It reused assets, leaned heavily on recycled systems, and told a side story that nobody asked for. It is still the worst-selling game in the series. Then came Borderlands 3, a mechanical leap forward that modernized the gameplay, selling 22 million copies, but it dropped the ball entirely when it came to writing and tone. I have a love-hate relationship with Borderlands 3. I love playing it, but I hate the fact that I'm playing that game specifically. The gameplay loop is incredible, but every time a character opens their mouth, I want to mute the game.
Same. Samesies, dude. I will fucking hate this story and want to mute it half the time. But man, is the game fun to play.
They followed up one of gaming's most iconic villains, Handsome Jack, with 2 live streaming space influencers narrating your every move. They leaned
That was cringy.
hard into this influencers thing, and even harder into the worst kind of millennial irony. Surface level references, smug quips, and jokes less funny than watching The View. And probably the most damning part of the game, they killed off beloved legacy characters and shoved new ones in your face like you were supposed to care, especially Ava, one of the most grating, self-important characters I've ever seen shoehorned into a major franchise. The whole thing had this weird, forced female empowerment thing that was going on, but it was all corporate branding on top of these characters. It just didn't land. It didn't work. It was bad. And the damage didn't end there. The backlash from Borderlands 3 carried directly into Tiny Tina's Wonderland, a game that should have been a slam dunk. Expanding on the franchise's most beloved DLCs and turning it into a full game should have meant something, but the reception was room temperature, safe, forgettable. By the time it launched in 2022, a lot of the longtime fans had already tapped out. The writing hadn't matured, the humor hadn't evolved, and critically...
Ow! You are so adorable, can't handle it. Hashtag cute as overload. Come here, you hug kid. Aw, thank you. Thank you, honestly. I enjoyed the pre-sequel, but the game should have been a deal. Yeah, it should have been a DLC. Fully agree. But my whole thing is, I don't think it's about like half the stuff. I just think the writing went bad. They just need new writers. Because thank you. You're gonna make me blush. I just fucking hit a button.
A pattern. These
Where's my... Right there. Okay.
known for replayability, Wonderlands gave players very little reason to come back. So post the peak of Borderlands 2, you've already expended much of this franchise's reputation and have burned out longtime fans, but I don't even think winning back old fans is going to be Borderlands 4's biggest problem. The issue that they're going to be running into is the damage that's been done to the brand, because Borderlands isn't just competing with other games, it's competing with its own reputation. The Borderlands movie bombed catastrophically, pulling in just $18 million on a $110 million budget. Miscast, tone deaf, utterly disconnected from what made this series special. And for a lot of people, that's their first exposure that they've had to this franchise in years. Not the games, the flop. Then there's Take-Two's recent update to their end-user license agreement, a move so anti-consumer that it sparked a review bombing campaign across all of their franchises. Modding, bannable. VPN use, bannable. Exploits in a single-player game, bannable. Class action lawsuits, waived. Data harvesting, front and center. Meanwhile, their competition hasn't just caught up, it's already passed them. Deep Rock Galactic, Remnant 2, Helldivers 2, Risk of Rain 2, Monster Hunter Wilds, Rust, Lethal Company. The co-op space is stacked right now. Some of these games are cheaper, some of them are free, and most of them feel fresher and more ambitious than what Borderlands has been offering lately. All of this leading up to the real question, who is this game even for anymore? Because the people that grew up with Borderlands 2, they've grown up. They're in their late 20s, 30s, or 40s now. They have kids.
I'm getting... Oh, no, that hurt. Ow. That hurt, mate. Come on. No. Come on. I played Borderlands too.
Kids' careers, limited time, and they're not lining up to drop $80 on a franchise they used to love just because it says it's back. They want value, they want trust, and they're not seeing either. And Gen Z players, they didn't grow up on Borderlands 2. They came up through Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, games that speak an entirely different language. Their first impressions likely came from Borderlands 3, Wonderlands, or the dumpster fire of a movie. None of that reflects Borderlands at its peak, and none of it really sells the fantasy. And that's what makes this all so risky, because legacy players aren't impressed and new audiences never cared in the first place. Then who's going to be left to rally around this game? 6 years have passed since Borderlands 3. That's long enough for a generation of players to move on and forget or form new habits. And the longer that you're gone without momentum, or in the case of Borderlands, killing your own momentum, the harder it is to claw back relevance. You need every advantage that you can get. You need a pitch that resonates beyond your core audience. But instead, Pitchford's comments feels like he's betting on legacy, like Borderlands is still a guaranteed seller, and it's not. And even if longtime fans do return, telling them to find a way to pay $80 is a hell of a tone to strike. It does not build trust, it builds resentment.
Everything this game has done, and the company has done to this game, has made me not want to buy it. And honestly, I think if they keep doing this, they're going to kill the franchise. That's kind of how I felt about Halo too. Like, they've done so much damage to these franchises by just releasing garbage after garbage. And it's also how I feel about Star Wars a bit, is that they release so much bad stuff, hoping that you'll buy it on name alone, and then once you realize you don't want to buy it on name alone, you kill the brand almost entirely. And it's to the point for me, like, I don't want another Halo game. What I want is I want you to stop making Halo, make something else, and then come back to Halo in 10 years. That's what I want. I don't want to see a Halo game. Because as much as I love Halo, you guys have basically killed the franchise. If I had my way, I wouldn't be making like a sequel to 5 or Infinite. I'd go back to after 3, and then we'd start from there again. That's what I would do. Well, at least that's how I would do it, in my opinion. That's how I would look at the entire series, and if that didn't work, I would just put a cork in it and wait another 10 years. Because the thing is this, you can do that. You can actually just wait a long time to make a sequel to a game. And it's not a bad thing. Look at Armored Core. Armored Core hadn't had a game in like years. Like 10 years when they announced it and when the game was coming out. When it came out, that was like the first thing I played, and it's like I never left. It was fantastic. They improved it, they modernized it. It was one of the best mech games I have played in so long, to where a point I saw new mech games coming out. It reinvigorated an entire genre. So I'd say after a while, if this one doesn't succeed, just put a cork in Borderlands for maybe a decade and then come back to it. At least that's my thought. Like, put the thing on ice, because clearly you don't know what to do with it.
It makes the franchise sound like it's still stuck in 2012, riding on the high of Handsome Jack and nostalgia, but that world is gone. This is a different industry, a different audience, a different world, and Borderlands doesn't get to act like it's the only game in town anymore. So yeah, while Pitchford might think that real fans are going to find a way, the reality is some of them won't, some of them didn't, some of them are going to see the price, they're going to remember the quote, the jokes, the movie, and they're just going to walk away, because even the most loyal players eventually stop showing up when the brand they loved stopped speaking to them. As a Borderlands fan, this hurts to say, but everything past Borderlands 2 has not aged well.
Fully agree.
Not at all. In fact, the writing, the characters, the themes that they use, the jokes that they use, it's cringe. And cringe is not going to move copies. And that's one of the reasons why the narrative lead for Borderlands 4 came forward and said, hey, this game's going to be much more darker. We're going to
be playing Dark Souls in a bit. I just want to finish this video.
Going to be much more grounded. It's going to be a little bit more serious. And I hope that's the direction that they go in. Because people's opinions are based off of their first impressions. And this series has not done a good job with first impressions for quite a few years.
Honestly, yeah, the Borderlands after 2 has just been rocky. 3 was good gameplay-wise, story was bad, the movie was awful, the pre-sequel was a decent DLC if it came out as one, and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands was good, but no one cared enough to even play it. And when you're at that stage, things are looking bad.
I want this game to be good. God, do I want this game to be good. But Gearbox does not have a leg to stand on when talking about betting on fan loyalty. Because you've burned that for the last decade. Real fans are going to find a way.
Yeah.
I don't think that they understand how far their words carry. Pitchford obviously has a lot of confidence in this game. And I think that's really important to have. You want to be confident about the game that you're making. You need to lead with that. Why wouldn't you just say, I don't control the price, but whatever that price is, I can promise you that we will deliver on it. That's all you would need to say. In most cases, most people would just move on. You know, Borderlands does have value. It has something that we just don't really see a whole.
I disagree. I don't think Borderlands has as much value as it used to. I think after everything has come out, the brand is diminished enough to where you better sell this game cheaper just because no one really cares about it anymore.
Lot anymore, which is, it is a self-contained price in most cases. I don't think the game's going to have any microtransactions. It might have a season pass, but that's all going to be for DLC. It's basically a relic captured in time. And that's something we're celebrating. How did you not lead with that? Why would you not lead with that? Why aren't you using that in your marketing? Why aren't you parading that around on Twitter and on social media and saying, we don't have microtransactions? Remember when Larian Studios had on Baldur's Gate 3's website the little FAQ that says, we believe in having a self-contained experience and no microtransactions and delivering on the price of the product or whatever it says. That went viral. An FAQ in the bottom of the website went viral. Why aren't you doing that? Do these companies really not know how the internet works? I don't think they do.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think they do anymore. And in my opinion, they have lost touch a lot with their core audiences. But this guy's video was amazing, honestly. I fully agree with a bunch of stuff. I disagree with certain points he has on it, like bad, having a bad image for a game could definitely be changed. It's not impossible to do so. It just requires self-reflection, which I don't think these games are basically good for. But I'm going to link the video to anyone who wants to watch it and give him a follow, please, because he's honestly fantastic at what he does. And I generally think he has a very good sense when it comes to a lot of the when it comes to a lot of the points he's making. But yeah, no, my whole thing is this, is like, you don't need to be that expensive, mates. You don't need to be charging that much. And also, get off Twitter half the time, I swear to God. The only guaranteed seller in the gaming industry right now are related to Nintendo, and that's only because Nintendo, despite all the controversy surrounding them, now still value quality, and everyone says otherwise. I would like to introduce the Nintendo speedrunning community, who has been abusing bugs plus glitches since 2000. So, how to put it? When it comes to Nintendo, as much as I'm like, they always do quality, I don't think quality is going to matter much for this next generation. To my knowledge, to upgrade my say I get a Switch 2 and I want to play Breath of the Wild in better frame rate and better thing like that. I can't do that unless I pay. I buy a physical cartridge, and it's not even really a cartridge, it's just a code to get into the game. So, and I have to pay more for that. If I get it the cartridge wise, it's $90. Most of the games are going to be $80 now, so they raised the price on that. The console isn't cheap at all. It's actually more expensive than it was originally. And if I decide, hey, I want to mess with my console because I own the console, I don't actually own the console, I just buy a license to the console. And if they want to, they can brick my entire console, which in my opinion is the worst thing they could have ever said or made able to be done. Because that means, say, like, Nintendo Switch after, like, 10, 20 years, right? Nintendo Switch 2 comes out, 10, 20 years down the line, they got, like, 2 or 3 different consoles, right? What if they just say, let's just brick all the Nintendo Switch 2 consoles? They'd be in the right to do so. That you wouldn't be able to sue them for it. You bought the thing, you bought the legal thing, they could do it. That's my problem with Nintendo. With their whole new console, the way they have marketed themselves, as much as they bring quality, and let's be honest, every game they make usually is pretty decently good, or at least better than most every other AAA company. But I'm gonna be honest, the quality of games isn't gonna save them on this one. They may sell well. They may have great things to offer for the gaming and everything else like that. But I'm gonna be honest, if half the stuff continues to be a trend, I'm starting to think they won't make as many sales as they could have. Oh, that's going to be overturned for sure. You sue us. Things have never worked when bought at core. That I agree, but the problem is they're trying that. Like, in my opinion, I think if the Switch 2 generally has... The Switch 2, if it's not better than anything else that comes out after it, will probably be in the same sense of a... I'm going to be honest, in my opinion, they're going to go through their Xbox One phase. They're going to go through the Xbox One. This is like Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be the Xbox One of Nintendo Switch. It's going to sell probably decently well at the beginning, but as it goes on, it'll sell less and less and less just because of the amount of price and everything else going with it. Because you have to add on top, you have to play online for all of it too. So, in my opinion, it's just going to... They may sell well at the beginning. I don't think they're going to sell well after it. Xbox One, PS3, Wii U moment. Yes, it's going to be one of those, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to be as well received as the first one, just because of pricing and choices they've made. But, with all that being said, I think, in my opinion, it was a great time, but we should actually go to Dark Souls now.